Chapter 6, The Songwriter, Dark Night of the Soul. I awoke to a new day. The sarsaparilla sky hung suspended over my head, and I cleared my throat from the dryness from the previous night that lay locked in my larynx, just like a waterless well. I couldn't refill it. I couldn't quench it. I couldn't quell it. I thought I may as well just head back on into the town, do some busking with my 6-string guitar. As I walked along Hackney Road, I jumped on board a 253 red double-decker bus to Bethnal Green Underground, and I took a tube to Charing Cross. Then I got to Trafalgar Square, just like a lion looking for a late lunch. I sat next to the lions there with my guitar and played my way through gut-churning blues to the crowd who were feeding pigeons. And I could see it was having an effect on the tourists, although I think the pigeons enjoyed it more than they did. I continued on regardless, even though my bank and belly were empty. But the blues became more like a gravel rock, and my voice, as dry as it was able to echo into the well-to-do ears of the people nearby. A couple of girls cheered me up. They stood up and they danced to my music, and they seemed to enjoy themselves. I left Trafalgar Square penniless from effort and walked all the way to the West End with a hunger I'd not felt before, and a hunger I could not satisfy. I hoped that the West End would be able to raise me the urgent funds I required. I arrived in Covent Garden, an angry, busking man. I was amazed to find there was a kung fu festival had stolen the show all through the West End. There was Chinese dragons and dancing and bragging, crystals, cymbals clashing, drums a banging and bashing, and Eastern fashions were the flavour of the day in the West End of town. The party pack of Oriental passion ran wild through frantic people on the streets and the pavements. Police tried to keep an orderly control, but they had their hands full. I decided to give in to the streets. It seemed my efforts to bring music to the streets was wasted expression in a place I thought was the pits of the world. I once thought London was the brightest tourist attraction in the world. I wasn't surprised. I was drawn to write a piece of poetry there, include All I Want for Christmas, and another one that I wrote, Lucky It's Not Raining. The fog stuck to the rooftops of London, and mist swelled before the tears in my eyes. Can't see another Christmas here alone. I wish there was someone I could surprise. You see, all I want for Christmas is some company wrapped up in my arms, or even just a smile to warm me up when Christmas comes around. And I'm thinking of the old folks and the little ones as well, and I'm thinking I could be dying in a lonely prison cell. Santa, all I want for Christmas is a little company. Christmas cheer's almost here, and the heartaches have begun. I'm stuck here under the rooftop of London, and the sky is overcast. I cannot fly like the birds in the sky, and the rooftops are full of snow. And stuck to the rooftops of London, I couldn't hide the tears that slid down through my eyes, and the winter sun slips its sad kiss my way. For the day is now near Christmas, and I have no one to surprise. If you're passing this way, Santa, would you leave me a small surprise? Put it in your sack. Put it on your back like a little present for me. and maybe I'll be free at Christmas to party on with cheer and welcome in the new year. For my note stuck to the rooftop in London, and it's cold here under the sarsaparilla sky, and the snow comes falling down. If you find my note, Santa, could you write a little surprise in a card? For it's a lonely spot that I have, where many of us hide. The outside world is frosty and snowmen never cry. For in the inside they're melting and wishing for Christmas Day. All I want for Christmas now is a little thing, you see. If you could somehow swing it to break me out and set me free, and get me across the sea to the old land where I come from. For now in my head I was dreaming of the green fields of Ireland and making an escape from London. It was the only choice I had left. I was near to the point of selling my 6-string guitar for 40 quid, just for a bite to eat. I started to look for a job, didn't have much luck. It had left me. It was the day before, I suppose, Christmas Eve, and I sat there alone in the park at the east end of London. So far alone, welcome to the cruel, cold night of the soul, to a city I had travelled halfway around the world to bring my songs, to bring my talent. And the midnight hour was still ahead, and I wished myself a happy new year before it came, and hoped that things would be better in the year to come. I had to prove a point, that my talent alone could carry me from town to town, could get me around and somehow make a difference in my life and other people's lives, and I wasn't giving up. There's no comebacks for a songwriter. There's no turning back. I had to live with my decision. It was now up to my music, up to my courage to foot the floor and pay the cost and get on with the job. I was lucky in one sense, having no ties, no wife, no children. Nobody missed me. I had no money, no family, no car, no job, no friends, no home. Well, that was more of the comforting thought that I carried with me. And I closed myself to the thoughts of negativity and started to dream about possibility of finding work. That night I went to bed in the park near the Oval Tube railway station. On a park bench with no one around, you start to think a wee bit differently, and the cold snow falling down over your head. I heard the sound of someone walking through the park, and I sat up and I opened my eyes. A fella asked me, "Have you got a light, Mac?" I looked at him. He had a Belfast accent. I fumbled around in my pockets and found the old cigarette lighter that I had, and I gave him a light of a cigarette, and I says, "There you go." And he looked at me and he says, "Where are you from?" And I said, "The same place as you." And he smiled. He said, "Where are you living?" I said, "Well, you're stepping into my lounge room at the minute." He said, "Come on with me." I followed him to Lambeth, and within 20 minutes he took me to a block of flats. We went up to the 13th floor, and he put a key in the door and he said, "You're living with me now. I'm Pat." And I looked at him and I said, "Pat, thanks very much. My name's Paul." And then I proceeded to tell him during the night of the things that I had been through since coming to London. He was intrigued. He told me he had a wee problem with the drink and a wee problem with the drugs. When he wasn't having one, he could have the other. And the problem is that he wasn't having much of it these days, and he was on edge. So I told him about my plans of finding work and going back to Ireland, to the old country. The next morning, after a good night's sleep under a roof above my head, we went for a walk, and he introduced me to some of his friends around the oval. They used to sit there during the day. If one of them had a bottle of vodka, or if one of them had a bottle of scrumpy wine, they would sit and they would share it, and they would talk about their dreams and about the things they've come through. I told them it was my birthday, just for a laugh. They all wished me happy birthday. And to my surprise, one of them handed me some money and said, a little card. He said he was keeping it for his father, but he couldn't get home for Christmas, so he gave it to me. And that afternoon I took the liberty of purchasing a little guitar, a 6-string Yamaha, just in case, and I left it there in Pat's bedroom. I left it there in the hope that I could take it to Ireland. And sure enough, the next week came, and as I was walking around Kennington Road, I noticed they were renovating a pub. I went in off the street, cold canvassed, and asked were they looking for a French polisher, because I knew in my head I could still do the polishing. He said, how much do you charge? I said, £50 a day. Why not, says I. I'm worth £50 a day. He said, give me a minute. He got on his phone. He went and spoke to someone. He came back and he says, when can you start? I said, in the morning, if that's soon enough. I couldn't wait to go home to Pat's place and tell him I got a job. And when I did, he was delighted for me. And then the next morning, I started at 7 a.m. I told the foreman at the job site the materials that I needed: some crystal shellac methylated spirits, some sandpaper, and I needed some polyurethane and stripper. We got into the work van and we went to the hardware shop and we bought the products that I needed, and I started stripping back the old polish and sandpaper in the timber and getting on the base colour and stain and putting on the shellac sealer and sanding it and rubbing it up and giving it coat after coat. And the people watching were amazed, and they were wanting to buy me drinks, and I told them I'm working, I can't drink when I'm working. Ah, come on, they said, one drink won't hurt you. In a matter of weeks I had enough money in my pocket to go to Ireland, and I had a new guitar to boot. I said goodbye to Pat, and I says, we'll not be strangers, I'll be coming back, I'll be looking for you, Pat. Because it was with his help I got through the dark night of the soul, and I was able to get myself on board a boat train. And I had the thoughts of starting from County Cork and making my way through Ireland, busking my way with my Yamaha guitar. And I told him I would leave my Fender guitar in his flat for when I got back. And he was happy with that. End of chapter 6.